Welcome to the March the 21st, 2000 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie. As we bring you the history of Grand Prairie, Texas on our history tape, number 393. We're very excited today as we're celebrating the birthday or the anniversary of the corporate city of Grand Prairie, Texas. It became incorporated March the 20th, 1909. And this is one day following the birthday, and Mayor England and I celebrated by telephone yesterday, so we knew it was happening, and we even talked with the president of the historical organization, Mr. Charles Billy Powers, and he's on the set with us today. We're very excited that we have three real special guests with us, and one super special guest that you'll be introduced to in a few minutes. But first of all, I'd like to welcome you, Mr. Charles Billy Powers, President of the Historical Organization. Thank you for
Mayor
being
Pro
here.
Tem.
Yes,
Thank you.
It's great. And down at the end of the dais, we have with us Jan Barrett, who is the chairman of the Historical Commission appointed by the City Council, and we're so pleased to have you with us today,
It's
Ms.
nice
Jan.
to be here, Ruthie.
Yes, and you have a big celebration that's coming up pretty soon, don't you?
Yes, we sure do. We'll be celebrating Grand Prairie's birthday at the Copeland home, and we hope that everyone will come out and see this beautiful home that we spent a lot of time, well, Mr. Powers spent a lot of time and a lot of money getting it all spruced up for this special day.
All right, and what's going to be the special date of that happening?
It's March the 26th. It's on a Sunday afternoon from 2 to 4 o'clock.
Okay, and where are we located? Do you remember the address of that, Mr. Charles Billy Powers?
125 West Dallas, southwest of Dallas Street.
Okay.
Right off of Jefferson Street.
Would you like to tell us just a little bit about what has happened to that home in the last 4 or 5 months?
In the last 4 or 5 months, we replaced about 25 studs. We'd had termites in it. And,
all right.
So the termites caused us to have to replace a lot of the stud work, the siding, and so we've had to go in there and replace that and redo the plumbing, a lot of general things. So
I believe you've repainted also, haven't you?
repainted, and so
Now you have a handicap walk for those of us
Right.
that need to come up the walkway to get to
I
it?
hope to, just took another picture of it, so I hope it to be in the paper to show the handicap walk, so it'll be more accessible.
To everyone.
So we had to spend about $30,000 in excess of $30,000 to get it back. So it's really a beauty.
Are you still taking donations if anyone comes and wants to
yes,
drop money in
right.
the little jar there?
Well,
we can do that.
we might have a new listener. The Grand Prairie Historical Organization is a 25-year-old organization that you helped found. And our mission is to record, save, and educate others about the various historical facts about Grand Prairie, including 3 properties that we take care of for the city. And the Copeland home is one of those major homes that we take care of.
And as a former resident of Grand Prairie, now living in Dallas for a little while, we still are so appreciative of your coming back out because you still own property in Grand Prairie, still have real roots and ties to this place, and were at one time the Mayor Pro Tem of the city of Grand Prairie, Texas. Weren't you the youngest one we've ever had?
I think you and I agreed on that, yes.
Yes, At least you agree on it, that you were the youngest Mayor Pro Tem
I was a lot
ever
younger
elected.
then.
Yes, that was back in the dark ages.
Yes.
Weren't you the group that was the Whiz Kids?
Whiz Kids, right.
Okay.
And some people still remember that.
Well, I'm so glad that we've recycled you from Mayor Pro Tem back to be president of the historical organizations. How many members do you have, Mr.
About
Powers?
160 right now. I had a fresh bunch come in the other day, according to the treasurer, and I have not included those, so I hope we're close to 200 in a month or two.
Well, do you always have a birthday party of the corporate city of Grand Prairie every
Jan
spring?
has preceded me in all of this, and
Yes.
we always had a birthday party.
As far as I can remember.
Okay.
Always had a birthday
Well,
party.
celebrating this 91st birthday, I'm real excited because I had a special revelation.
Did you really?
Yes, I did. I really did. And when I got my computer out and punched one of the buttons on the computer, actually it was a time machine.
That's interesting.
And I was able to punch just a few more buttons, and guess what happened?
What's that?
Well, we have with us today, from 1909 era, a very special young man that was the very first mayor of the city of Grand Prairie, Texas.
That's great.
Oh, yes, and that is Mayor Stephen Philip Lively. And would you like to reach over and welcome him to the set?
Welcome, Mayor. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. I'm very glad to be here.
Yes, and
Please visit, Mayor.
I would like to also welcome you to the dais today,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Lively. Mayor, your honor.
May I call you Ruthie?
Yes, you may.
Thank you very
But you
much.
please call him Mr. Powers.
I'm going to call him Mr. Powers.
All right.
That is correct.
That is very correct.
That is correct.
Well, as the mayor of Grand Prairie in 1909, you were, that was a real exciting election. Do you remember the figures of your election?
Yes, ma'am. I was elected by 65 votes.
65 votes. Oh, I think that's just wonderful. You know, if our mayor today was elected by 65 votes, he would think he was real lucky, because there was one time when there was about 59 votes that he had above his opponent. But I believe that that would be something special, wouldn't it, Mr. Powers?
I think so. You're right.
I believe I have some of the stats. When I punched the
that
time
would be
machine,
interesting.
I got some of the wonderful things that said there was 107 votes cast that day.
My.
I thought y'all had about 1,000 people then, did you?
Yeah, are there more than that here now?
Yes, there's a few more than that here now. There's about 100,000 today, Mr. Lively.
100,000. My.
It's
It's really changed.
It really has, and Grand Prairie from 1,000 to 100,000. I'm glad we have you back here for a visit today, and is it all right if I invite you to the City Council tonight to come and meet our current mayor, who's about the 27th or the 28th mayor that we have had?
I'd be honored.
Yes, okay.
Do you have your own place to meet, or do you meet at someone's house?
I know that you all at sometimes met at a little place down on Northwest 2nd Street or Southwest 2nd Street. Isn't that right, Mr. Powers? Didn't they meet down near the old jail?
I believe so.
That little-
I've been-
Some little places, I recall. You got a bigger place now, you say.
Oh, yes, we have considerably bigger place now. And by the way, your marshal that was elected at the same time
yes.
you were was Mr. E.L. Raines.
Oh,
And
E.L.
do you know what? He got 3 more votes than you did running for marshal,
That
running for mayor.
Oh, E.L., I hadn't thought of him in about 150 years.
Oh, yes, it's been 91 years since you were elected mayor. So also that you had some aldermen that were elected, and that was a Mr. Herr and a Mr. Moore, and probably a Mr. Baggett and Mr. Means. Of those, how many did we have? Only 2 of those got to serve?
I think 2 or 3 at the
2 or
moment.
3?
That sounds about right.
Uh-huh.
Three or-
Y'all sure did have a lot of cotton gins here when you were serving as
We
the mayor,
started
weren't
a
you?
cotton gin here.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Later, started a milling company and made flour.
Yeah?
We lived just right down the street.
Okay.
Actually, as a road back then, we didn't have streets.
Didn't have
really.
any streets?
Just a little road, and we lived down there. I was by there when I came back, and I think there's a hardware store around there somewhere.
Oh, dear. Right
Yeah.
where you lived when you were here in 1909.
That's true. We loved to go to the First Baptist Church.
Oh, yes.
Is it still here?
It's
First
probably,
Baptist?
probably not the same place, though. I don't know.
Well, I think it's within 2 blocks of where it was. The one that you attended, I think it later on, after you moved away from Grand Prairie, Texas, one of them was burned
Is that
and
right?
restored. And
Well, you know they're having Founders Square, or you got that on your agenda?
yes, I have that on my agenda.
Right,
This
so-
coming Sunday, right after the services at the First Baptist Church, we're having a Founders Day gathering at your First Baptist Church there on the corner of Northeast 2nd and what we now call Main Street, which you always call the Pike that went through
Yes.
when you were here.
Well, I'll
So-
try to get down there Sunday and see that.
Oh, I think that you ought to be there. I think that's wonderful because as Mayor S.N.J. Lively, your name will probably be on some of the markers, or at least in
Oh,
some of the
my.
historical things. Isn't that
That
wonderful?
would be wonderful. Well, you know, I was Sunday school superintendent over there for a while.
Uh-huh.
Loved the little children. I tried to see that they all had Bibles. I was always giving them time machine kind of chokes you up, you know.
Yes, it does.
But I tell you, those children, I tried to see that they had Bibles, and I dip in my own pocket just to buy them Bibles and see that they had that. And
You were a
really
generous man, Mayor. That's
well, thank
wonderful.
you. I loved working with those children.
Well, I also noticed that that you also took some kids on a little trip. How about that interurban?
know,
How about that interurban?
That interurban, does it still go down to Waco now like it did?
I scared you gonna find out.
Well,
It's
We don't have
gone.
an urban anymore.
my. That interurban, I'll never forget that first run from Dallas to Fort Worth. We took some kids over there. Took my own kids.
Yeah.
And some kids from the church, and we made sure they were on that first run. And you never saw so much excitement. Came right through the middle of town. It was just wonderful.
And that was electrically operated, was it not?
It was, had wires right above it, and just scooted right down the
Scooted right
track.
And it stopped in Grand Prairie, Texas?
It did. It
Yes.
did.
I don't have any idea what it cost to ride then, but I know that I rode an interurban going to Sunset High School. That same tracks went by the house where I lived, and it cost me 15 cents every time I rode that interurban. Yes.
I think it was a dime maybe back then, as I recall.
Well, see, I wasn't here with you real religiously at 1909. I didn't get here till about 1931.
I didn't remember you, but
That's all
looking
right.
at you recently.
That
You
was
know,
perfect.
something I found in anticipation of your time machine is that, you know, he got that flour mill going after his cotton gin.
Yes.
That was the same time the cracker factory was built.
Brown Cracker and Candy
Brown
Company?
Cracker.
Yeah.
And they wanted to have 30 homes built for them in Grand Prairie, and actually the chief baker bought Professor Dallas's home, which is the place in which I was born, you know,
Yeah.
that area.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't thought about the mayor tying into that, but you know,
Yeah.
he probably sold flour to
Yes.
the Brown
We
Cracker.
did.
Do you remember the name of his flour company? Help me remember the name of his
No,
flour.
I just have
Oh, I
known
thought I read it in.
We called it the White Dove Flour Company.
That's
was it?
it. That was it.
I believe.
Mayor, I sure do think you have a wonderful, wonderful memory, a recall that is second to none. After you've
Well,
been through
thank
the
you.
time machine, sometimes that kind of messes up our thinking, you know, and it makes
Did
it a
you
little
say
bit
he was
harder.
born in 1862, so that would make him what? 100 and...
18.
Well, let's don't go into that, Mr. Powers. I hate to think, my wife Sally, you know, she'd always telling me that my memory was slipping, but proved her wrong today.
Uh-huh. And one of your kids really moved to Irving, and how did you let that happen? You
Don't
can't
know. They
control
kind
those.
of go, yeah, these kids nowadays, they just can't tell what they're going to do, can you?
No, you really can't.
Well, he had a daughter, Ruby, and you knew Ruby
Yes,
Pittman.
Ruby Pittman,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
her
sweet-
husband ran
sweet girl.
Sinclair Service Station.
Yeah,
right?
right across the street. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
he used to try to keep me straight, but it didn't work.
But that was a later generation that was just really belligerent and the young bucks that wanted to really change the
That's
city, and
right.
y'all did. Y'all annexed more stuff than Mr. Mayor Lively ever heard about.
Oh,
Did you
no.
be sure and tell him what y'all tried to annex, would you?
Well, we annexed, you never heard of the Triple Underpass, have you?
That going into
You know,
Dallas,
Well,
no.
the one in,
Dallas, have you heard about that?
Where you cross the Trinity River.
is that the one I saw on our
Where there
way
was a
over here
ferry.
from the time machine
That's
station?
it. That's
I think
it.
I saw that.
Yeah.
In 1953, we annexed right up to that Triple Underpass, down the levees, all down Mountain Creek, on the lake, all the way to Irving, all the way to Mansfield,
And all the way to 157.
all 157 over here in Arlington. Everything that was untaken, we took.
Now,
And
isn't
so
that
that's
something?
for you. We did that.
Well,
Mayor
that's
Lively.
wonderful. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Now, I have to admit, some of it slipped away
Do
from
you
us.
remember what year you annexed all of that?
1953.
1953. So from 1909 to 1953, there was some mean little boys growing up here that grew up to be young officials in the city, and they decided they would take over, and they really, really did.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yes.
That'll make my ride back in the time machine a happy one.
Yes.
Well,
Mr. Powers.
you would have known Mrs. Barrett and my relatives. They lived south of town. We didn't live in town. We were out of town, south of town, about 2 miles.
Just
Past
down the
Cotton-
road, couple- yeah,
over
past the Cotton
Cottonwood
Gin.
Creek. You remember that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Is it still here?
Yeah. Well, and also the cemetery, you know, south and I think it was formed, wasn't it, Jan, about 1910, 12, something like that. You know,
We were
E.
discussing
Hale
it, maybe.
Hall, wasn't it?
Let's see.
Donated that land.
Would
That's probably during your
y'all be
administration.
offended if I did show a picture of Mayor Lively before the time machine?
Oh, I've
I ju-
aged a little since then.
I just happen to have a picture here that if our camera could clue in on Mr. Powers right here and get this picture of Mayor Lively, and that was taken in approximately 1909. Now, you have aged a little since then, but
I have.
graciously.
Gotten a little grayer.
Yes, you have. You were a pretty handsome young man.
See, looks pretty good on the
Yes,
screen.
that looks real good
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
screen,
I remember
doesn't it?
those days.
Well, you're doing great. Now, I've been a lot skinnier.
Yeah. Of all of the things, Mayor, that you were involved in, like the cotton gin and the flour mill and being mayor, was it exciting to be the mayor, the first mayor of a town, even though you didn't have a real landslide of a victory, but did you enjoy being mayor?
Oh, I was honored. Always liked to serve, like to serve the people and all the groups I worked with. A lot of people don't know I lost the school board election after I was mayor. But then later I won it.
Then you won it and got
I
to
did,
serve.
lost it and won it.
Okay. Serving on the school board, was that a lot more responsibility or being mayor? Which one?
It was just good helping the children. Being mayor, I worked with a lot of people that sometimes were grouchy and arguing about this and that
And taxes
and
and
land and
all.
all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
School board, I felt like I got to help the children of the town a little more.
That is really great. Well, is there
I
any?
wonder if he took this out on, I understand he has a relative that now teaches with the school system.
Yeah.
Distant relative. but
Yes,
I wonder if that relative reminds him that his whatever was
I
the
don't
first
know.
mayor.
Now, you're going to have to give us that information.
No, I understood that he has what would be a great-grandson that teaches math or something.
Well, could be. I'm not sure that I
Yeah.
ever met that young man.
Well, I know
but,
Mrs. Jackson's husband was on the school board, so
Yes.
it's always hard to know how that works with the teachers and all, whether or not.
well, I'm sure whoever he is, he's doing a wonderful job.
Well, that's
You left him with some good genes. didn't you?
We tried to pass those
Good
those
genes
good qualities along. We sure did.
Yes, yes.
I'm sure he's a fine man, probably a good-looking man if he resembles me.
That's it. That's it. Well, we're just delighted and honored that you would be our guest today, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the City Council meeting to meet our current mayor. And are you going to have an invitation for him to come to the birthday gathering on Sunday?
Yes, I've talked with him earlier, and we miscommunicated about it because he had some other obligations, but now it looks like maybe he can be there at least part of the time.
I would love to be
Because
there.
Well,
Jan has always been great about this, and we have cookies. I don't know if you eat cookies and punch.
Oh,
and
yes,
Oh, yes.
and we
yes,
have
yes.
hospitality. and
he
we show
hasn't
you-
forgotten how to do all of those
I
things.
love those cookies.
And Dr. Copeland's home will be on display now. I know a good friend of yours was Dr. R.C. Shanks. He was a friend of
R.C.
yours.
Shanks.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
And
my,
so
yes.
Dr. Copeland and Dr. Shanks were the doctors that I knew as a kid because they were the doctors in Grand Prairie. So you'll enjoy seeing Dr. Copeland's home. The home, was built in 1902 and been a part of the city property since 1975.
Jan, one more time, date, and place where we will really reveal a little bit more about Mayor Lively on that day. So anybody that comes by will get the real treatment of the time machine that
Well,
day.
I'm so glad you learned how to work that computer.
Yes, isn't
That
that
bring more people back every
Yeah.
year. It will be March the 26th, and on a Sunday afternoon from 2 to 4 at 125 Southwest Dallas Street.
And is there anything else you need to add? How are we doing on time, Mr. Tovar? My time machine's working real well. We still have 8 minutes. Is there anything else that you would like to report on?
Well, I'd like to report, and this is not the happy kind of thing, but you knew that Frances Copeland, the daughter of
Yes.
Dr. Copeland, died Thursday. And so we hated to lose her, but she was
She was a good
good
contributor
friend,
to us,
good
wasn't
contributor
she?
to us, and
Yeah.
Copeland family lives on as you know, the newspaper carried a nice story about her.
Yes.
So we have that, and of course we have on May the 18th our next quarterly meeting, which will be held in the city library from 11:30 to 1:30. And we don't have the firmed up exactly what we're going to show you, but one of the things in the prospect, we're going to let the city of Arlington come in here and show us their new slideshow.
Well, good.
And so we'll see if that can't work out for the May 18th meeting.
Okay.
We're always looking for members. We've got all kinds of ways, corporate members,
All right.
life members like you, and patron members. And we got a bargain for $10 a year. You can belong,
$10 a year.
and you get 4 newsletters and several postcards and a lot of conversation.
Well, you have also been given a real kudo because you've an opportunity to rename some of the rivers and the creeks and
Yes.
so forth and so on here in the city of Grand Prairie. Do you think y'all are going to get that show on the road pretty soon, and we'll know what all you've
Well, I
named?
think so.
Did you name any for Mr. Lively?
That's what I'm worried about. I've got
That's what I was going to ask.
That's what I'm nervous. I didn't know you were going to be able to do this, Ruthie, because I'm so accountable. But we named over 40 of them, renamed them, because a lot of the creeks have been named for, you know, an intersection or something. And so we took the opportunity, according to the lady that was in charge of the tributaries and through the hydrologist, we had renamed these streams in accordance with the people that formed the community in that area during the 1910 to 1950s. I didn't know quite when you were here, but so all of these creeks out here and branches now have family names on them, you know, including
Well, we're
Jackson.
going to, even though Mayor Lively served from 1909 for just 2 years, he was just mayor 2 years,
right?
and then he moved to Mesquite. I think we ought to consider amending some of those and see if we can't get a street or a river
yes.
or a creek or a gully or something
Well-
named for this young man that had a flour mill, the Dove
Oh, yeah.
Flour Mill.
If we got just a minute, tell the mayor about that. But see, the original naming of the towns was the Main Street running along there. There was a Jefferson in Center Street, and then they had east and west and had north and south.
That was it.
And in between, they had one named Bradford. And there's something, you know, Bradford's fit into our history somewhere, Jan, and I can't call it up. But that was the only personal name given to in the original town site.
That's right.
So that should be something we should put Mayor Lively's name on
I
something.
think we're going to have to work on that considerably, aren't we?
Yeah,
Excuse me,
this time machine's tough.
time machine's kind of tough. I'm kind of,
Well, it gets
It'll
kind of
dry out.
warm under these lights after you've been through the computer time machine. It really does
it's been
get
a little rough.
a little hairy, doesn't it? Okay. Jan, as chairman of the commission, you've recently had your award. That was exciting, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, it was. We awarded our awards to the people who really contribute to historical preservation. We were very fortunate, well, we're always fortunate every year to have a lot of people who are historically minded, and that's our way of saying we appreciate the things you do.
Yes, and I believe the one of the top awards went to Susan Shuffler.
Yes,
who
it
is-
sure was.
who had researched the marker at Avion
Avion
Village,
Village.
and that was a long, long research. I believe she had to send that in about 4 times and redo it and research and start over. And, but she got her state marker,
Yes,
didn't
she's
she?
a persistent young lady, and she did a very fine job.
Yes,
And then our other award went to Judy Wilkinson, who
Yes.
is a pretty new member of our Grand Prairie Historical organization.
Yes,
and
but tell
she's
us
really
what-
learning the ropes. She is works with the Grand Prairie ISD. She is a social studies facilitator, and she has brought so much to the organization, and is really a hard worker. She's just a diligent person, very intelligent. She's just really into Grand Prairie history.
And she's also, I believe it's been really exciting because she's also brought into the loop many of the teachers.
Yes.
Because what do we do every July or August? She gets us together, and Mr. Powers and you and I and anyone else that's historically minded get together for the teachers in training.
Yes.
And that's where she has really made an impact, I
Oh,
believe,
yes.
in a great and significant way.
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to say something to Mayor Lively.
Okay.
I was going through some old newspapers, and I ran across an article your daughter wrote, Ruby.
Ruby, yes.
Ruby Pittman.
Yes, and she
Sweet
wrote a
girl.
lovely article about Grand Prairie, the way she remembered it a long ago, when she was a little girl, about the prairies and
Yes.
the wildflowers,
Yes.
and how she could hear the church bells ringing over the hill. It was very pretty. I read that.
Well, I'm glad Ruby remembered the town.
Yes.
Say
Yeah.
something nice.
Yes. Oh, it was wonderful. In fact, one of our ladies, Mrs. Ford, did a sort of reenacted Ruby one time. She pretended she was Ruby.
Yes.
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 Did a great
okay.
job.
Yes, that
Well,
is
thank you.
wonderful.
She always did like to write when she was a youngster.
Well, she did a beautiful
Glad
job.
she kept on with it.
Yes.
Yes. Well, is there anything else, Mr. Powers? We have about 2 more minutes left on here. You want to exhort everyone to come to the Copeland home one more time, and also to meet the mayor that afternoon.
Well,
and-
are we on right now? Or
Yes.
Okay. Well, and even tonight, aren't you going to have Mayor Lively at the
Oh,
City
yes,
Hall, City Council?
Going to be at the city council meeting tonight, but those that see this on Thursday night,
Well,
they're going to know
be a
that
little late.
it's a little bit late for that, but we'll welcome anybody that comes in tonight after they see this at 7 o'clock, at 6:30 till 7. Then if they'll hustle on down to City Hall by 7:30, they'll get to see him. Or if they'll tune in on Channel 16 tonight, they'll get to see him on television.
Live on the.
So he's going
right,
to be on television.
Right. One
Well-
little update is I had another call on the Puget Cemetery. You know, I had an Eagle.
We have a half minute.
Okay. Well, we got the Eagle Scout working on that, so we're going to have an update on that program.
That's
So,
really good.
come May 18th.
And if you'll hang around a little while longer, Buddy Boring's going to be here at 2:45, and we'll get to visit with him about other historical happenings. And I want to thank y'all for being here today. Especially, we're just so proud of you, Mayor Lively. We're so glad that you made the time machine trip. We just know that it's going to be very beneficial when people get to see the person in person rather than read about them in a book. And it's so nice that you would share it with us today.
Well, thank you. I'll get over to the drugstore for this.
Good, good. We're going to work on getting you all fixed up for tonight. Thank y'all for being here today for our history taping. And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.